the 5th video in my series of You Can Play This. In this video, I'm going to be playing a piece from one of the oldest and most beautiful surviving Italian lute manuscripts, the Capriola lute book. This book is not only a visual delight, but it's also a treasure trove of useful instructions for the modern player. The manuscript is named after Vincenzo Capriola, an Italian composer and lutenist born in Brescia in 1474. The pieces in this collection are the only surviving examples by Capriola, who was one of Italy's finest lute players from the early Cinquecento years. The book also includes works by other lutenist composers of the age, and so provides an important historical snapshot of this beautiful repertoire. The manuscript itself has a wonderful story. The collection is dated at 1517, and a translation of the preface uncovers that the material was compiled by a pupil of Capriola's, known only by the name of Vitale. Vitale makes known his authorship right from the very start. Considering that several divine works have been lost to their ignorance of their owners, and desiring that this almost divine book, written by me, will be preserved forever, I, Vitale, have adorned it with noble paintings, so that if it should be owned by somebody with no knowledge, he would keep it for the beauty of the pictures. And yes, these paintings are just charming. There are 147 pages of marginal pictures depicting hunting scenes, nymphs, fighting animals, and fawns. Well, I reckon you'll recognise this little chap too, found on folio 15V. The manuscript passed through the hands of various rare book dealers through the centuries until 1904, where it was finally purchased by the Newberry Library in Chicago. There is no doubt its survival is due to Vitale's delightful artwork. The piece I want to share with you is called Tientalora Baleto da Balar. The word Tientalora crops up only occasionally in the lute solo repertoire. In this case, the full title being Baleto da Balar would indicate that this little piece may have been used to accompany a dancer, or even two dancers. The music is written in Italian tablature, but you can download a Luteweb edition of this piece in French or Italian notation. As always, Luteweb's copies are complete with my own personal annotations to help you get going straight away. Use the direct links below in the description box to download your copy. In its preface, Vitale provides lots of hints and tips as to how to interpret the signs and symbols that you come across in these pieces, including lute playing technique, ornamentation and dynamics. I shall be expanding on this aspect in my Luteweb top tips later in the video. As well as a downloadable copy of this piece, I've also made available a practice track. Practice tracks can be really helpful when learning a piece. It can help you get into the habit of slow and steady playing and embedding the tune and rhythm into your musical memory. What I have done is provide a downloadable M4 audio track recorded on an A40 G lute, complete with an introductory count-in. The recording is slow and steady, and before you know it, you'll be playing this tune in no time. Check out that description box for the link. For this video, I'm playing a 6-course lute in A. I love playing this early Italian repertoire on 6-course instruments. They tend to be smaller, and the octave tuning on the 4th, 5th and 6th courses help to bring out that bell-like quality and sound. You can play this piece on your G lute or on the guitar, remembering to tune the 3rd string down a semitone to an F sharp. Put a capo on the 3rd fret and you'll be at the same pitch as my practice track in G. If you're still watching, you must be excited about getting started on your lute, and hopefully you're finding this stuff interesting. So just 2 more things. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to support these videos and to encourage me to make more. Plus, don't forget to check out my top Luteweb tips after this. couple of top tips from Luteweb. Firstly, as mentioned earlier, Vitale writes an introduction in which he explains the various signs and symbols found in the book. For me, one of the overriding themes in his preface, and which is also very much evident in the music, is the idea of sustain. Vitale even spells this out to us. When you play, be careful to hold the notes, keeping the fingers on the fingerboard. This sounds like a bit of a weird thing to write until you start putting it into practice. So here's an example. In the Luteweb edition, I'll focus on bars 17 to 27. If you look at it, you'll probably be thinking, this is very fussy fingering. What I'm trying to do is create as much over-ring as possible to get that sonic resonance, that campanile bell-like sound. Vitale writes, "This is the most beautiful secret in preparing and playing a piece." Here's the same section, but with different fingering that's not focused on maximising the over-ring. It's a very different effect, and for me, Vitale is the man who wins the argument. This train of thought takes me on to my second point. In bar 5, there is a B-flat major chord at the start of the bar. It crops up later as well. For each of these examples, I've used fingers 3, 4 and 2. This is hard. It's like a difficult yoga stretch for lute players. It's possible on my 54cm 6 course, and I've planned it this way in order to create sustain and to avoid various clunky shifts. If you have a larger lute, you're going to be thinking, uh-oh. So it's all about compromise. You might have to work out what is physically possible and comfortable to play on a bigger lute. The downside will be that you could lose some of the campanile effect. Let me know what you think. Finally, I want to touch on the hot and contentious issue of the use of index and middle fingers in various scenarios for the right hand. This manuscript is proof that the thumb and index versus the index and middle techniques were used in combination. A dot over a 2-part chord indicates the use of index and middle. No dot indicates thumb and index. Baffled? Stick with me on this one. Let's just look at bars 17 to 20 again. The middle and index markings help to separate the thirds from the basses and allow for clarity within the lines. In my edition, I've stuck like glue to the markings in the original manuscript, basically because they make total sense. The educational direction of this book is very clear and enlightening, pointing out many technical and musical considerations when playing the lute. There is so much more I could share with you from this beautiful manuscript, and I'm sure I shall be revisiting it again for videos in the future. Don't forget to download my Luteweb copy and the practice track. Let me know how you get on and write your comments below. If you'd like to become a supporter of Luteweb, it would be wonderful if you'd consider visiting my support page. As an independent musician, every little bit helps to keep the lute vibes flowing. And hey, let's share the celestial lute harmonies. Happy lute playing.